Jo Darby, thank you for being my first podcast guest in my new home while I'm recovering from it feels like years of illness. So thank you so much for joining me.
It is really exciting to be here. Woohoo!
I know, I'm so excited. Okay, so we're going to dive straight in. Did you feel like you had to be a good girl when you were growing up?
I wonder looking back whether I felt it at the time, but I think now that's what I was definitely doing. Definitely.
Mm,
Um, and I think it came from loads of different places and manifested in loads of different ways. I have two parents who actually they're still working now in their 70s
mm,
and were very much about if you graft, you succeed, and the world is yours for the taking. If you have a dream, go out there, get it, and all of that, which is all really positive, fantastic, amazing stuff. But definitely, if you are, as I was, the academic child in the family, I think subconsciously, I definitely picked up on the way to be good, and the way I can show that I am doing all of that is to achieve and put myself or fit myself into those boxes that demonstrate that. Um, and I think as well, when I was, well, I know this isn't the I think bit, but when I was a kid, I was a fairly chubby kid. I would call myself, I was like the fat kid at school, and I was bullied quite a bit for that. And
mm,
consequently, I think I would try and do things to get reassurance or recognition or um, um, move away from that and give myself self-worth by finding other ways to do it. And so I think that trying to be good at whatever the thing I was being good at, whether that was well behaved or achieving or whatever it was actually like a kind of counterbalance to
mm,
being picked on and all those kind of things. So if I thought there was something where I could tick that box of what I've achieved or I've done good, or somebody says, "Oh, that's good," then that would definitely be a direction I would head in, I think, because of that, because I got so much grief for, and I wasn't just bullied on because I was quite round, and of course I became a teenager and I grew taller and I was no longer round, as happens to so many of us.
mhm,
And it's just growing up and your body changing and everything. But I definitely think that played a part in it. And I was also bullied because I was quite academic, and also because I did drama and speaking. Even then, ironic. That's now where I am. But even then,
mhm,
and those things meant that they gave me, I suppose, self-worth and more confidence. But I can see also that then when you head down that track, the ability to break out of that and go, do you know what, I don't want to be doing that anymore, or I want to have a different view. What then happens is you then maybe get the fear factor of, oh yeah, but if I step away from that, that's been quite comforting and protective and has actually kept me quite safe when I've been in that lane. If I now step out of that lane, is all the bullying thing going to happen again? Or are people going to go, who are you to say that? Or are you going to get things coming at you from
mm.
another angle? And I can see that now. I don't think really I saw that at the time. Having said that, though, I definitely wasn't a rebel when I was younger. I didn't do it. Honestly, I was so, I suppose, squeaky clean. I remember
Mm.
having a boyfriend that my mum and dad didn't particularly like. I say boyfriend. I think I snogged him a few times. He was sort of slightly, yeah. I can see now why, if my daughter came home with that chap, I might be going, oh God, I hope it doesn't last. But
Mm.
but beyond that, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't do. I was very very good. Yeah, in sort of lots of the ways of the definition, I think.
So, so what changed?
Um, I think things probably, well, it's funny. I think I've changed all the way along the road, but I think at certain points there's been more of the good girl still there. And then other
Mm.
times there's been less of it. It's been like, oh, and then something happens, or you lose a bit of confidence, or your circumstances change, and you go, oh no, hang on, all that's a bit scary again. And so you go back to that's sort of what feels a bit safer because you've been conditioned and because it's how it is, to then be able to break away from it. And when I went and worked in theatre, I definitely feel like I stepped away from that a bit. But
Mm.
then it's that classic thing, if you're in a new environment and everybody knows what they're doing, and do you know what you're doing? So you feel like you maybe have to tread the path in exactly the same way everybody else is treading the path. So, and then of course, switching from being in theatre and then being a barrister, I definitely think the good girl conditioning came back into that. And I think that's partly, certainly when I was at the bar, that's about that environment as well,
Mm.
without a shadow of a doubt, because there's so many traditions and expectations, and this is the way it is done, and culture within being at the bar. And yes, some things have changed. A lot more needs to change
Needs to.
and should be
Yes.
changing. And I am amazed, having left over 8 years ago, how things are still not where I think a lot of us think they should be. So I think the good girl conditioning definitely came back in when I joined the bar, because it's so cutthroat, it's so competitive, it's so, you don't want to do anything that rocks the boat. You don't.
No.
So whilst you, although weirdly, I think the contradiction is when you're in court, you do have to stand up and say the thing that maybe does rock the boat, and say the thing that is the
Mm.
contradiction or is the bold statement, because that's how you persuade the jury or the judge and you win your case. But within the culture of the role and societal expectations as well of that role,
Mhm.
and your colleagues' expectations of that role, I think that is, I think that is hard to do. It was certainly hard to do then, and I still think it's hard to do now. And you are a bit partly also as well, because you're self-employed as a barrister, you're only as good as your last case.
Mhm.
So again, it's hard to do something that might raise red flags with people or seems a little more out of the ordinary. I think the irony is, though, actually, that a lot of the people who become barristers don't always fit a mould. But when you
Mm.
then get into being a barrister, you are within that framework. So there's a real contradiction there, because there are definitely a lot of eccentric characters and people who are quite happy to speak their mind in fairly bold ways about lots of things. But similarly, and I don't know, maybe it's also being a woman in that environment as well, definitely had its challenges. Oh, yes. And
Mm.
I think they are still there. I mean, the dropout rate of barristers of a certain age who are women is still really significant. And we still
Yep.
have far fewer female judges than we should have as well, bearing in mind we are slightly over 50% of the population. Is it 51, 52? I can never quite remember.
Mm.
Something like that. As my daughter reminded me this morning. Yay. Yes, mummy. Well, there's more of us. Well, there are, yes. But I think that dynamic definitely is still there. But now I am 8 years into Voice in the Room, and I would love to say, just being really candid, I would love to say, no, there is no more good girl. I am totally deconditioned. I still think I am a work in progress. Michelle, is that allowed? I think, is that,
Oh, yeah, I'm a work in progress.
yeah, I
There's
think
still
I,
there's still areas I'm just like, oh, yeah,
yeah,
there's the good girl. Hmm.
yeah. And that is definitely it. So I started the business, and there was, oh, yeah, okay, is this how we do it? I don't know. So that then is when I think you then go back into that conditioning that you've had. I've got to do it this way because that's what everybody expects, or that's how it should be, or whatever that is. But now I'm much more established, and I'm really confident about what I'm offering and the results I can bring, and how I know I can help people and all those things. Then I have you know, I'll have weeks where I'm like, no, rah, I'm doing it this way. And just because they're doing it like that, that's fine. And I'm going to do this, and not feeling like I have that. But then I have other days where I wake up and just fall back into all of those things of second guessing and who am I, and all of those.
Everything I'm doing is wrong.
Yeah. Oh, everything I'm doing is wrong. In fact, I did actually only about a few hours before I came on this podcast, I did just, there were just a few little things that happened. And I'm like, oh no, it's all wrong. No. Why am I doing, who am I to, exactly that. Who am I to be doing what I am doing?
Yeah. But
But
you're doing so well at it.
So well at what?
Being a businesswoman.
Well, I'm trying. I
You're doing so
think
well.
it's the label thing as well a bit, isn't it? What is the label you give yourself? I love that, businesswoman. I don't think I call myself that.
I know.
Maybe I should take that, Michelle, businesswoman.
Have it.
I'm
Have it with love.
I'm having it. In fact, actually, I not so long ago. Well, I think I've been into Chambers maybe 3 times since I left. So 3 times in 8 years. And on every occasion, my old clerk, Steve. So for those who aren't listeners who aren't aware, your clerks are a bit like the people who find you your work. So they're the people who organize all the cases and work out who's doing what and when. And they're almost like your agents in a way, basically, but they're within Chambers. And I walked in and he went, it's the voice in the room. And that's how he greets me. He's done it on every occasion now. He's the only person who does it. But I think, that's quite nice. I sort of feel like that's definitely not being a good girl. And he's not either in saying that. He does it as a sort of big announcement. I'm like, okay, I own that. I'll take that.
Can I start doing that when we meet up?
Yeah, you can do it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Why not?
Thanks, Steve, for giving me that. So tell me a bit about Voice in the Room. It sounds intriguing. Obviously, this is not my first podcast with you, so I know, and obviously I would consider you one of my closest friends. So also, I know that. But for those listening, what is Voice in the Room? What do you do?
I feel like I could be really not good girl now and do a whole curveball and say I've just rebranded myself as the best chocolate cake making company in the country. But that would be a bit weird.
You're really good at cooking as well. I have
yeah, although I do make a good chocolate cake. No,
yeah.
Voice in the Room is really, well, I suppose it does what it says on the tin. Are you the voice in the room? Can you be the voice in the room when you need to be? Can you have the impact to speak when you need to step up and do your speaking? It doesn't matter whether you're in a leadership role, you're part of a team, you run your own business. Essentially, I am here to help you do it better, to speak better, to communicate better. And by better, I mean have more confidence, be more effective, have more impact, but in a way that you notice, so you get more results coming out the other end, or you get more people who want to follow up and have a conversation with you, or you get more people who go, do you know what, actually, I now really want to buy that thing, or I want to engage your service because you spoke with great confidence about it and I understand what it is and you inspired me and I can see how it works and I engage with you and I connect with you. And the motivation for starting the business is really to help people. So I joined the bar to help people find their voice in court, because everybody, doesn't matter what you've done, everybody deserves to actually be able to tell their side of the story, even if ultimately means they're going down or whatever. And similarly, in the workplace, it breaks my heart when I see people and this idea is amazing, your product's amazing, your business is amazing, you're an incredible leader, but you can't effectively communicate with the world out there, and you can have the best idea and the best business. If you can't talk about it, in my mind, that's like, and I love it. I love it when I have the people or the companies who totally get this. And I've just been with an amazing company who totally get it. And they're like, well, this is a really important part of growing our people and widening our reach and just generally being more successful, and are fully committed and fully on board with the whole process and understand it. And though for me, that's brilliant. Or a company or organization or whatever comes along and they're not really sure and they're not really certain, and then you get to work with them, and then at the end of it, they're like, oh my goodness, why did we not do this like months? Or look, I can't believe we started here and now we've ended up here, and yay. And what was really nice a couple of weeks ago, a new company I'd worked with, and they said, oh, it's been great and everything, but at the end of it, they were like, but we've got this extra thing, which was everybody had this really bonding moment, and people who didn't really know each other very well or didn't necessarily think they did have come out the other end, and there's this real camaraderie and this sense of achievement and feeling like they want to carry on with it, and accountability, which is totally, from my perspective, it's just like, yay, it's so great. I really love that. So that's what I do in a nutshell. Is that a nutshell? Possibly not.
Yeah.
Well,
And it's not just women you work with. You work with
oh no,
all brands of humans, all varieties.
all brands of humans, anyhow they come. I love people. People are just fascinating. And I run a 2-day course called Speak Like a Leader, and over 2 days of really intense work with people, you do get to know people a little bit, and you find out they share with you things that maybe they haven't told a team they've worked with for 10 years or their partner. Like, things come out because from my perspective, if it's not a safe, supportive environment, then they're not going to be able to feel like they can step up and do their speaking and sharing of whatever it is. And I really love just finding out amazing things about people. Like, a guy told me, so part of the 2-day course, people at some point they get to talk about something they want to share, whether it's a passion, idea, or an interest, or whatever it is. And they talk about work stuff as well, but this is one of the things, exercise they do. And this guy, he was quite a good speaker, but he had no idea he was a good speaker, which is just always brilliant. Really? Yeah, really, you're really great. Oh no, I'm not. No, I'm the expert. You're really great. And he starts telling this story about how when he was 5 years old, he was kidnapped by militants in India, and we're like, what? And he's like, yeah. And then I realized about how brave my mum and dad were, and so that's the point of my story about, your family might be your rock, and they're really brave and amazing. They do amazing things for you, and it was just so extraordinary and so like left field that nobody was expecting it. And you get those little moments, and that was like a really jaw-dropping moment for kind of probably quite obvious reasons. It's not the mill story, but it often isn't really extreme. It can be something much more simple. Like, I remember having a guy just do his whole piece of speaking on pizza and why he was insanely passionate about pizza, and the piece of speaking was so amazing that he finished and we were all just like, I need some pizza. Which is brilliant, but just goes to show how persuasive, really effective speaking can be, that we then all wanted pizza. So yeah.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. My watch is ringing at me. Like, get off. I need to in the habits. I'm on a podcast. Leave me alone. Okay. So tell me about the work that you do with young girls.
My passion project. My passion project is Girl Talks, with a capital GIRL, standing for Girls Inspiring Real Life Talks, with a little nod to TED on the side, obviously. And this came out of a frustration, and I jump on my soapbox, I'm warning, rant about to happen, lovely listeners, that public speaking, communicating is not taught in schools. It needs to be taught in schools because it's a life skill and we all really need it. And at the moment, everything's through screens. We can't have a conversation anymore. We really, really, really need it. And our young people, I think, are crying out for it, particularly girls. I think all young people, but that's where this started with girls. And so I had this crazy bonkers idea and thought, right, well, why don't I offer myself? I'll go into a school, I'll work with a group of young people, we'll learn some speaking skills. And then at the end of it, we'll have like a little mini TED event almost, where they talk about something they feel really excited and passionate about. And then they will come out with confidence and skills and an achievement, and yay. And so that was the plan. And I approached the Girls Network, who I know you know, Michelle, and I know loads of your listeners will be familiar with. They're a phenomenal national charity, and they work with girls in schools, and they give them a mentor. So they have lots and lots of mentees, and they match them up with an amazing mentor, particularly girls who wouldn't necessarily ordinarily have those kind of opportunities. And I was already doing some workshops with them. So I thought, there could be quite a nice fit here. And I approached the amazing Stacey, who's left now, and I said, I've got this bit of an idea. What do you think? And she's one of those awesome women who was just like, yes. So they were already working in a school in Marden High. And I said, well, maybe I could offer this to those young people as well. So that's what we did. And we did a 12-week program. We started off with quite a large group and then we whittled down and I just worked with a few of them. And at the end of it, they held an event and they invited family, friends, communities, or the community.
I went.
You went, you did. We
Mhm.
had the Bishop of Newcastle or somebody important, I don't know, as well. And they all did their piece of speaking. We had an actual TEDx speaker, an amazing lady called Mina. She was so cool, wasn't she?
She
Amazing.
was.
World champion mountaineering lady when she just had a baby, age 25 or something. Anyway, she was very cool. And the girls were just phenomenal and spoke about ADHD is my superpower and why we need financial literacy in schools. And we had a tampon tower and told Rishi, take the VAT off the tampons. And it was just great. Sounds very bonkers, but the girls did it and they all got a certificate at the end. And I was proud as punch. And the really great thing that the Girls Network helped with was we got the data out the other end. So they did a survey questionnaire and gathered some data at the start about how the girls felt about standing up, speaking, communicating, and then how they felt at the end of the process. And the amazing thing was that their confidence and skills went up by 50%, which I think is massive. So, and that was just 12 weeks of me going in for
Mhm.
hours a week. Imagine, this is what I always think, imagine if this was part of the curriculum through their whole school piece. That would just be incredible. And I do know that there are other organizations out there who are lobbying, and apparently Keir is doing something about this. Who knows? We'll find out and see. He seems to have a lot on his plate at the moment, so we'll find out and see. But that's where it came from, this belief that it's such an important skill. So now we're doing it again.
Yay.
And the name of the game is to have 3 schools and then choose some of the girls from each of them to have then a bigger event, maybe in the TED Theatre in the Catalyst building in Newcastle. I'm hoping that might be an option. If anybody out there knows anybody who would like to give it to us for free, a little plug, yes, please. Yes. And in my grand vision and plan, I would love this to be offered alongside Duke of Edinburgh in every school in the country. The challenge, Michelle, is there's only me. So
I know. We need to
ah,
clone you.
so yeah.
Cloning's happened. We've done it
Oh
with
no,
Dolly the
that would be
sheep.
that would be an awful, scary thing for the whole world. Imagine, dear Lord, subject anybody to that. But I would love that. Like that could be an amazing thing. So, but I can't. So at the moment, I've gathered this group of people. You are in the group, Michelle,
Mhm.
who are keen to help make it happen, whether that's through contacts or signposting or actually more practically and all the rest of it. And we are in the early stages, but it's all really positive. And ultimately, I think if I can do a sort of train the trainer model, so maybe then other people can then be going to the schools, then we could ripple, and then you could have a national scenario where you have events in different regions, and then you could choose a few people from each region, then you could have a massive big central showcase. And there's an amazing lady called Joanne. Hi, Joanne. She said she's going to build us a website for free so we can live stream it. So then kids from all schools all over the country can access it. And then there can be a resource portal. And then teachers can use it in their PSHE lessons. And all these things can link up. So even if you can't be part of the program, you can be part of it. And all of that good stuff. But that is a lot. And that's why I'm trying to get a team together to sort of help support with it. Maybe ultimately Girl Talks becomes a charity or a kick, or I don't know. I don't even know
So
how
exciting.
So I feel like that's a stepping into the be bold and brave. And I have had people say, is that gonna how are you gonna manage to do that? That seems quite a lot. And is that possible? Is that, and I'm well that
Baby steps, one thing at a time. And everything is
Well,
possible.
but that's my response, Michelle.
Yeah.
That's always been my attitude. That's always been my approach. But which I think that's why I feel like maybe I'm sure this is maybe true of a lot of people, that a lot of us are a contradiction because we have one foot in our good girl conditioning and then the other foot very firmly in the, what do you mean you just don't think I can do it? Right. Yeah.
Hold my
Oh,
beer.
yes, I can. I mean, it's a surefire way to get me going. Yes.
No.
I remember years ago, I said I was going to do a half marathon. I'm lovely listeners. I'm not a runner. no, 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 no. And I'd had a baby. And so this was oh, I'll maybe try running. It might help me get fit. And someone in Chambers said, I signed up knowing nothing to the Keswick half marathon. Now, I did know Keswick was in the Lake District, but I'd just not joined the dots that it basically might be up the side. Yeah, yeah.
That's me doing a mountain.
No,
Yes.
that's it. Yes, for people listening, Michelle's hand was literally vertical. Horizontal.
Hmm.
I mean vertical, horizontal, vertical. I do
Vertical.
vertical. Thank you. Oh dear Lord. Right. Okay. Yeah, vertical. Okay. So, and I just hadn't joined the dots. And then my other half said, well, let's look at it relief on the map and we'll see what the incline is and everything. And I looked at it and it was literally
Like run over this mountain and then this mountain and then
yes.
this
Yeah. Oh,
mountain.
look, and then you go up cat bells and yeah, yes. And I remember coming into Chambers and telling somebody about this. And they looked at me and they gave me a sort of Paddington hard stare and they were like, Jo, I'd really maybe think about that quite carefully because that's actually a really hard half marathon. My dad does them all the time and he says it's the second hardest in the country. So if it's your first one, I'm thinking that's probably not going to be a maybe a good outcome. You could maybe sign up for a different one. I was like, right.
Right.
All right.
I'm going to win this marathon.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Honestly, Michelle, I was just like, yeah. So go off, did the marathon, of course.
Did you win? Yes.
No, I definitely didn't win. However, there are benefits to coming nearly last. The
Mhm.
benefits coming nearly last is that the marathon was run by the local Rotary,
Mhm.
and they had a man with a microphone who literally every runner who came in, the idea was they told you, we'll try and call out as many numbers as possible. When a lot of you come through initially, it's often hard. We can't call out everybody's name or number because there's just too many of you. There's hundreds of you. However, if you're nearly last, I had a whole commentary coming and definitely not last, but nearly at the finish. Jo Darby, number, whatever, I can't remember the number. Here she goes. She keep going. Let's cheer her in, everybody, because she's still. I was like, this is amazing. This is why you don't win and you don't go at the front. Great. And I remember coming back to Chambers and this person in question going, they didn't even ask me. I just went up to them and went, oh, by the way, you know that half marathon I was doing last weekend? Yeah, did it. That was my time. They went, oh. Okay. Well, that was quite, oh, right. I said, so I'm thinking of doing it next year. Do you fancy it? Are you going to, and they, no. Well, despite the fact they considered themselves very fit and very, so I was like, yes. So yeah, I'm not
You won.
really the person to say, I don't think you can do that, Jo, because I'll be like, oh, right. Okay. Not all.
Yes, but prove the doubters wrong.
It's hard though, isn't it, to do sometimes when you're, yeah.
It it is, but also that kind of like last tiny little bit of motivation you need just to go, no, screw you. I'm going to do this.
Mm, mm, mm,
What are you
mm,
going to do about it?
mm. I've just been reflecting actually on all your work, your amazing work that you're doing now, which is so needed. And when I go and work with it, it's funny, isn't it? When you become aware of how something can be described or looked at or viewed, you suddenly see it everywhere.
Oh, I
So
know.
all the
Yeah.
things that you talk about in your amazing book and the workshops and everything that you're doing out there now, when I go into companies and I'm working with mixed groups, but the things I see, and actually, interestingly, it's not always women as well. The
No, it's
conditioning
not.
thing and the parameters that are being put around people, I
Mm.
see as well. People just sort of say, "Oh, well, I probably better not do it like that," and I'll go, "Oh, why?"
Why?
Oh, well, in the meeting last week, someone said, I was like, all right. And so, yeah, so, well, I'm not sure I agree. Do you not? Well, no. And then I'll have someone next to me go, well, I don't agree with that either, Sandra. So, well, look, I don't agree with it. And your colleague here doesn't agree with it. So why does that mean that person was right? And therefore, oh, well, I sort of feel like, so you pick up, you
Mm.
hear, and it's
Yeah.
really interesting how you sort of
I
see.
I love it. So it's like don't accept criticism from somebody you wouldn't go to advice for.
Oh, yes, that's excellent, Michelle.
Mhm.
I love that.
So it's just like feedback is a gift and you can return it to sender. It's like, no, I do
Yeah,
not accept that criticism because I I don't trust the source.
No, that trusting the source thing is brilliant, because the number of people who say to me, "Oh, right, yeah, well, I was told in my last job that my presenting is really rubbish." So I would then go, "Okay, and what was the role of the person who, oh, they were head of IT?"
It's like,
Right. So,
okay.
hang on, let's just rewind that. What do they actually know? Oh, they don't really know anything about it. Right. So what? Yeah, but they said it was rubbish. What? Oh, I don't get that.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Opinion does not account. I love
yeah,
it. I love
yeah.
it. One of the things I love when you do your workshops is you get people to own being expert, because that is one of those words, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, own it, have it. And also this concept as well, that you don't have to be an expert in just what your job title is. Or when I go and do the workshops with the Girls Network, one of the questions I ask them is to pair up with a friend or a partner, and they have to describe what each other is good at. What are their key? So I suppose you're only 14 or 13 or whatever, so you wouldn't say I'm an expert, but what are the things they're really good at? So like the younger person's version of being an expert. And I always
Mm.
say it doesn't have to be academic achievements. It doesn't have to, it might be you are an expert dog walker for your nan because she can't get out, or you're amazing at being really kind if friends have a problem when lots of the people just don't understand. And that is actually your gift. That can be your expertise as well. How I always describe it as, make sure you share your gifts, and your
Mm.
gifts are not just I have all the knowledge about X, Y, and Z. Your gifts from a speaking and communication perspective, often your gifts are you describe it in that way, which means those people in the room now understand it, because when the head of IT explained it, he explained it, and only those people understood it. So you
Mm.
you still have gifts, because your gifts are your wisdom and your perspective and your life experiences that color how you communicate what you are talking about. And your ability to see people and their responses in a different way. And yeah, I bang on a very boring lot about share your gifts.
So boring.
I
So
always
boring.
I always say you have to be like Father Christmas. So Father Christmas comes with all his gifts. Does he go home with gifts? No, no gifts. Every gift from the sack is gone. Okay, no more gifts in the sack. Okay, that's how you have to think about your speaking. It's no
Mm.
good going, oh well, I did it and I've taken, oh look, I've got 2/3 of the gifts, and I go and sit back at my desk because I didn't say 2/3 of the things because I thought they wouldn't be understood, or because somebody told me I was crap last time, or because I've only been in the job 5 minutes, or because my last boss told me I was crap, or whatever. That's that conditioning, I guess. Don't let your
Mm.
conditioning mean you don't share your gifts.
Absolutely. Okay, so my last question to you, Joe, is what question do you have for our audience?
I have a question of a pondering nature. Is that allowed?
Yes, of course. Is it
Okay.
allowed?
Okay. So I it's a sort of two-parter really. So if and I only added what I'm really I do communication for a living. I'm really not making much sense, am I? Okay. My initial question was, if nobody was watching, what would you do? And
Mm.
then the extra bit of the question that I wanted to add in, because I thought, ooh, that makes it interesting, was if money was no object and no one was watching, what would you do? So you could just do, if no one was watching, what would you do? But
Mm.
if money was also no objects and no one was watching, what would you do? Bit random.
Interesting.
Bit random. What would you do?
You know what the first thing that my brain jumped to
Yes.
is if I had like if I had all the money that I needed, I would be literally in a cabin somewhere writing my so I've got many books in me. Um one who I have just met my co-author for the Good Girl for teens and their mums. So that is one, but that's I couldn't do that. But I have some fiction books in me as well.
I seem to recall many years ago we had a conversation about a fiction
Hmm.
book. I think
Yeah.
that maybe that needs resurfacing.
Oh yes, it's yeah, it's life admin and moving admin and work admin
All of those things.
in a
I
way. Yeah.
I almost feel like that question of what would you do if nobody was watching is you think about that, and then I wonder whether everybody listening could challenge themselves and always think, but if people were watching, could I do it anyway?
Yeah,
I
I'm
then
gonna do it anyway, just eventually. But
yeah.
I did a speaking gig yesterday, and I came away. I absolutely loved it. It was like a presentation, but it's kind of like a talk but workshop. So it was like a talk shop. I don't know. And I was like, oh, I could do this every day. But I came home and went to sleep.
Well, if it makes it, that doesn't surprise me at all. So I do a 2-day course, and I literally have to come home both evenings and go and lie in a dark room with the door
Mhm.
shut for 20 minutes before anybody in my family can re-engage with me, because otherwise you cannot. You will literally get drool coming out of my mouth, because it's energy, and it's a
Mm,
lot, and your brains, it's the cognitive load, and all of that is like full on. I think
love
I'd
it
like to
though.
have a cabin next to yours, Michelle. Maybe we could have it
Excellent.
by a lake, and we could
Yeah, yeah.
do the wild swimming and
Um,
No, okay. I feel like this is something I should try.
yeah, no, I'm not very good being cold,
No,
quite
neither am
frankly, which is
I.
weird because all of my looking at my DNA, it's all from like the Highlands of Scotland and Denmark and Germany and the northeast of England, and I hate being cold. So like, are you kidding me?
But am I allowed to say, but maybe actually that's just a, maybe if you did it every day, then you'd realize, or maybe you would change. Can you change that kind of a
I
thing?
don't know. I don't know. That's like I get really angry when I'm cold.
God, I do not, right. I do not want to be, we're not doing that then. We'll put cabins next to each other with nice little fires in. There we
Well,
go.
yes, or we could go cabins where in a tropical place, and I'll be straight in the sea. You know what I
Oh,
mean? It's like
now you're
you know,
talking.
tropical cabins.
Tropical cabins. Where are we going to do that?
It's
You see,
exciting.
there's a thing. No one's watching. Money's no object. We're just going to go off. Tropical
Great.
cabin.
Yeah.
Write books. I think that's a great
Slay.
idea. I think I think
Excellent. We've got a plan.
I think you should just write in the front of your book, written in a tropical cabin somewhere when no one was watching. There you go. Even if it's not.
Awesome.
Even if it's not like that.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the
Oh,
podcast. And I
my
can't wait
pleasure.
to see your journey and share in sort of from the sidelines, like cheering you slash us on.
Yes, we need to all be doing a lot of cheering of everybody on at the moment, I feel these
Mhm.
days. So cheering is very good. Yes, thank you so much for having me, Michelle. It's always a giggle. It's always a joy to chat.
Thank you.